Welcome to Life Mastery Radio with Todd Allen and Jackie Bailey, the show that dives into the science of higher consciousness with inspiring topics such as abundance, intention, health, manifestation, love, and transformation. Join Todd, Jackie, and their guests of leading authors, speakers, coaches, and entrepreneurs weekly at 10 a.m. Pacific. Learn to live a peaceful life with intentional mastery. It's all right here with stories and messages to support your well-being and most evocative dreams. Now, here's your hosts, Todd and Jackie.
Hey, it's another groovy day. And you know what I always say? That's because I make it that way. I wake up in the morning and the first thing I think about is it's going to be a groovy day. And guess what? It turns out to be a groovy day. Something might happen, something might change, but I always think back and think how I started the day and turn it right around. It's also a groovy day because I get to hang out with my really good friend, Jackie Bailey. And Jackie Bailey and I are bringing you Life Mastery Radio, the talk show that brings you great thoughts and ideas for you to use on your very own life mastery journey. And we have a really cool guest today. She is all about you and helping you find your purpose. We'll get into that here in just a couple of minutes. But Jackie, we've been off the air for a while.
We have been. And when you talk about something might happen or something might change, you've had a lot of happenings and a lot of change over the last couple months. It's so great to see you.
Every day I woke up and it was a groovy day, but it was a challenging groovy day. That's for sure.
Yeah, it got harder and harder to be groovy, even though you were able to accomplish it.
Yeah. 6 weeks of chemotherapy for those listeners that don't know. 6 weeks of chemotherapy and 8 weeks of radiation every single day. And it had an effect on me.
Well, what a blessing though that you still have your amazing voice. Because your cancer could have affected that, right? And it did not. So yay.
It did for a while. It kind of went a little weirdo for a little while, but no, My voice is still there. I'm still here, and I still can't eat quite yet, but I'm working on it. I tried some soup yesterday. I got a couple bites down, and I just started sipping water again yesterday. So we are on the mend. I'm looking forward. I was telling Jackie in the pre-show that yesterday I was watching a little bit of TV and the Omaha Steaks. Here, maybe I'll give a plug for Omaha Steaks. Their commercial came on and I thought, you know what? I'm going to buy that sucker right now. And I jumped online and I ordered a big pack and it'll be here next week. And I'm looking forward to it.
Determined. Yes. Okay. Well, I hope you get to have that.
Green salad with some blue cheese. Oh my gosh. The dreams I have, you would not believe.
Well, what a nice Christmas gift that would be if you got to enjoy that, right?
Oh yeah. My sister's house on Christmas Day, all that food. Oh yeah. That's gotta get ready. All I want for Christmas is to be able to eat food normally. That's all I want.
Well, you're such a heroic figure, Todd, that here you are celebrating the fact that you can now sip water. And so many of us just take that for granted every day, that we can just take a drink of water, we can have a steak, we can have a salad. And so here you are facing that, limitation for the first time. So what would you tell somebody then that's maybe having to start this process? Is there a word of advice that you might tell them?
The biggest thing that helped me was I just had to get through today.
Yeah.
That's all I had to do. And then I could go to sleep and wake up and start over again. And eventually, as time passes, I would get through it. But all I had to worry about was that day. And that's what did it for me. And it was magical. And it worked. And, I've got a girlfriend and 3 girls. So I had 4 moms that were watching out for me and I get phone calls and my mother, encouraging messages from my mother. And that's why I had a pretty good support group and Facebook and friends. And although I didn't really put it out there, it was kind of a wait and see. Let's not get too excited about this thing. But once I did put it out there, I mean, the support was just overwhelming. So
good.
Yeah,
Well,
and of course
you're a
you
hero.
were always there with a nice text, and the shows that we were able to do, you were supportive, and yeah, so it was kind of cool.
Yeah,
Great to
well, we
have.
look forward to getting back into full swing in January when
Yeah,
everybody's
yeah,
all
yeah.
healed up.
And you've
So,
just been gallivanting all over the world. I mean, I think I saw last week you were in New York, and it was hard for me
yeah.
to keep up.
Yeah, I've been doing some speaking to some associations that work with kids and helping them add some value to their summer camp programs that they put on around the country. So I was in Lancaster, Pennsylvania in October, and then Rochester, New York last week. I'm going to be in Ohio next month, possibly Virginia next month. So that's great. And our programs for kids are ramping up, and lots of kids are calling us to say, I want to be a speaker. And we have some fabulous programs for them to help them to
I
do
better
that.
grab onto
So,
your shirt tail before you run away, because I got to hold on. It's hard for me to keep track.
yeah,
That's
lot going on for sure. And launched a book number 6 last week. So um, that was exciting. Yeah, lots of things going on.
goodness
But
gracious. And you can Google Jackie Bailey and find out more. She works with kids. If you are an executive with the presentation coming up, you need some coaching. I mean, there's a whole plethora of things she can help you with your message and getting that message out of your heart and out into the world. That's what she does.
yeah, thank you.
I want to
Absolutely.
remind our listeners that today's show page is at www.lifemasteryradio.com. Anything we talk about, any links will be there. It's already up, so you can go there. We have a link to our guest. And while you're there, you can sign up for the newsletter. Jackie creates a newsletter once a week. It highlights who's been on the show, who's coming on the show, and a blog post about the most recent show. So it's kind of cool. Both of our books are there. The links. Oh, both of our books. She's now 5
The
more.
original book.
Yeah, we got to do some updates. I got to get busy.
That's all right.
Sign up for the newsletter. It's right there. Let's see, Jackie, is that it? Oh, we have a YouTube channel. All our shows are on YouTube. I think there's about 300 of them with a full gamut of everything life mastery. If you just scan through there and you're interested, click on it, listen to it, you'll find out some great information, some great thoughts and ideas for you to use or for you to put in your toolkit. So check it out. Life Mastery Radio with Todd and Jackie. Okay, Jack,
Hey.
are you ready for the show?
I'm so ready. And, Michelle and I have this connection already because she helps people get their voice out in one way, and I help them get their voice out in another. And so this is going to be a great show to have this conversation with.
Michelle Vandepas. Did I say that right, Michelle Vandepas?
You did. You got it.
Vandepas is our guest today, and she is an entrepreneur and a firm believer in the power of passion, purpose, and making a positive impact on the world. She is all about blending creativity with smart business strategies to help her clients unlock their true potential and live lives that deeply connect to their purpose. Michelle coaches and leads world experts and those who have a message, thought leaders, coaches, healers, teachers, and change makers. Together, they find their specific niche, voice, and method to get their inspiration out into the world, collaborating with her publishing company to help them get their message out in the way that suits them best. So she's totally customer driven. That's pretty cool. She recently published another book. I'm not sure how many she has. I forgot to ask her that. We'll find out. But her most recent book is called Purpose. Can you imagine? I wonder how many books are named Purpose. The Alignment Guide, 28 Days of Inspiration, Reflection, Intention, and Creative Expression. Spark the radically authentic life. Michelle,
Nice.
welcome to the show, my friend. How are you today?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, we are excited, delighted, and what's the other word?
Ignited.
Ignited that you were able to join us today. I know we had you scheduled a little bit earlier and a couple months ago, but Gosh darn, things just got in my way.
Life is like that. Glad you're here today to do the show.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So, Michelle, the first thing that comes to my mind is what drives you? What I mean, you've done some amazing things. The list goes on and on and on. You've been a foster parent for 10 kids, you've raised your own kids. Goodness gracious, what drives you?
Well, that's a great question. I think it changes. I
That's
think,
good.
right? I think it changes. What drives me right now is I have a team of people. I have a business. I get up every day and I focus on serving my team, serving my clients, and doing the best I can do in the day, right? Back when I had foster kids, it was a little bit different driver around family and helping kids and so forth. So I think most of us, I think we're supposed to have one thing through our whole lives. And I know we're going to talk about purpose. Purpose is the same through our whole lives, but I think our drivers, our passions, our interests, those things change and should change throughout our lives.
Mm.
I heard a basic though. Would you say that you have a basic of being a servant leader?
Well, that's interesting. I would not have agreed with that probably a decade ago, but I think I've leaned into it as I get older and allowed myself to lean into the service. You know, when I was younger, I thought there was a lot of martyrdom around that word.
Hmm.
Mm.
And I think some people put themselves in service and then at the expense of themselves.
All
And
right.
so again, right? We age, we get wiser, and we change. And so I think that's a nice way of putting it. Thank you. I'll accept that honor.
Well, what led you to feeling that this purpose was so important? I mean, was there something in your younger life or your childhood that helped you to realize that having a passion or a purpose or being driven towards something was a good thing for you?
So I searched for purpose for many years. Like, why am I here? I kept feeling like I'm here for a reason. I want to do something different. I want to do something bigger, right? There's that word
Mm-hmm.
bigger. I want to make a difference in the world. And I think when I was on this search, I kept looking for what's my purpose, thinking it was supposed to be a passion, thinking it was supposed to be an interest, thinking it was supposed to be my job. And so as an entrepreneur, I've been an entrepreneur my whole adult life, had lots of different businesses. I would be, well, this must be my purpose. Must be my purpose, right? And the more I researched, the more I read, the more I talked with other people, the more I talked with my clients, my team, myself. I did a lot of inner work. I realized purpose isn't out there. It's not a
Mm.
job. It's not a vocation. It's not a passion. It's not your message. Purpose is something you're born with. You have it. You're on the planet. You have a purpose. You don't have to search for it. You know, God or whatever word you want to say does not care if you know it or not. You have a ripple effect just by being alive on the planet.
Wow.
And so when you honor that, and it takes a long time to just be comfortable with, I'm okay being on the planet, right? It takes a long time to be okay with that. And whether I know my purpose or not, I know I'm making a difference just by being here. Then you can start to delve into the next step, which is how do I express myself? How can I, using your words, be a servant leader? That may not fit for everybody. How can I teach? How can I mentor? How can I be a caregiver? How can I be creative? What are the verbs I can use that are inside my heart that I can express? That is purpose.
Hmm.
That is purpose.
You know, being a life coach, well, I've been trained as a life coach. I don't necessarily practice it, but I have worked with people. And so I'd be curious to know, Michelle, you know, I heard so many times, I don't know what my purpose is. How do I
Right,
find my purpose?
right,
I just don't know. And so how do you respond to people? I really like what you said. You don't have to know what it is,
right.
but follow your heart maybe and until you discover it.
Yes. So the first thing I'd say, I would go back to, it doesn't really know. It doesn't matter if you know it or not, you're living it. And so start paying attention to how you relate to other people and how do you share your heart with the world. Do
Hmm.
you share your heart with the world through creativity, through caregiving, through networking, through connecting with others, through communication, right? Jackie talked about
Right.
a little bit offline about Dale Carnegie and communication skills. That, are you feeling alive when you do that? Are you a teacher? Are you a mentor? Like all of these things, they're verb driven, though they're not doing things, they're being things. How are you being in the world? That's how I would define your purpose, is how you are being. And so people who are searching for their purpose need to, the answer always comes back to go inside. You have the answers inside, right? No matter who
Yeah.
you follow, what guru, what teacher, what spiritual advisor, it always comes back to listen to your heart, right? And so that's what purpose is. It's going in. Now, you may have a calling to help to help caregive and be a nurse, but being a nurse is not your purpose. If you have
Hmm.
a calling, if you have a feeling inside that you are great as a caregiver, you could be Mother Teresa, you could be a nurse, you could nurture your own family, you could be an EMT, you could, the doing of it has nothing to do with the purpose. But that's where passion comes in, and you start discovering what you're passionate about, what you're interested about, what you're curious about, and you follow those things, and that will help you connect more deeply to purpose.
Isn't that
Something.
interesting? Yeah, because I talk to a lot of people who want to start a business. They have
Yeah,
this entrepreneurial spirit
right.
and they want to start a business and they think, well, I should probably start a business based on something I know. Okay, using the example that you just shared as someone who goes into being a nurse or a caregiver, they think, well, that's what I know. So I'll go into some sort of business. I'll start a business doing that. Then they find out that's really not what they're passionate about. It's what they know. So I like that what I think is true is being validated by you in that there is something different between a calling and a purpose. And I never
Yeah,
thought to
sure.
define it that way before, but you did it beautifully
Well,
and
you
eloquently.
experienced that, right, Jackie? Because you for years you were in the dental industry,
Hmm.
and then you thought, okay, well, I'm supposed to teach in the dental industry, and that
Right.
just didn't work out for you, right?
Yeah, it was, I wasn't serving the doctors I was working with in the way they needed because it wasn't really what I thought I wanted that they should be doing. And so, but when I started focusing on communication, that's when it took me in a whole different direction, and I started to realize that's my purpose. It's not the dental field. It's helping people to be better
Oh,
communicators.
that's a great example.
So, yeah.
Something came to mind when Michelle was talking. It was my mentor and teacher. I don't know how many times I heard my knower knows. She would look at me and just say, "Your knower knows,
Yeah,
right? Your knower
Yeah.
knows. Just listen."
right, right. It sometimes it's hard to hear ourselves. And
Hmm.
I teach this in writing all the time, right? As I help people learn how to express who they really are. And I think also, Jackie, you said something like what I heard you say is you are a communicator and you do that through teaching, right?
Hmm.
So what I would say is how you like to share your heart is through teaching and communicating. And if you'd had the passion for the dentist, that could have been totally your path, right?
Sure.
Or
Sure.
the interest. And so you can take that a million different ways, but I would also guess that even if you did no longer had a job, you would still be communicating and teaching. And that's how you know it's your purpose, because it is
Right.
Right.
nothing to do with your job or your vocation
Right.
or
Well,
your
that's
interest.
exactly right because I'd had 30 years of experience in dentistry. And I was talking to a hygienist friend one day and I said, I don't see myself doing this any longer. And she said, what do you see yourself doing? I said, training and teaching. That's what I see myself doing. So
Right.
it's right. And she said, well, that sounds like a consultant. So that's when I started a business as a consultant, right? But when I started consulting, the numbers of, the annual plans and budgeting, those were important to the doctors, but they weren't something that I enjoyed doing. I wanted to teach them how to be better communicators with their team.
Right.
That didn't turn around a profit really quickly. So that's when I started to struggle with getting clients, because I wanted to focus on something that they didn't see as vital for their bottom line. So through an opportunity to teach some kids, that's when I started on a different path. So you're right. And so I was going to ask you if there are questions that we can ask ourselves to start getting more clear on what is our purpose, and perhaps see the difference between what our purpose is and what we're actually involved in at the current moment.
Yeah, good question. I think it's important to understand that we have passions and interests, and they do change over time. And it's okay if they change over time. You know, I've ballroom danced on and off for 40 years. I'll go a decade without dancing and then suddenly pick it up again, right? That's an interest. It's a purpose. It's not a purpose. It's an interest. It's a passion. It's a hobby. Nothing to do with purpose. It's one way I express and am creative in the world, though, right? I also
Right.
do art sometimes. Again, comes and goes in my life. I don't have to go make a living at it. I don't have to monetize it. Nothing to do with purpose. So I think the first question is to ask yourself, what are you curious about? What do you love to do? Those are more ego driven. That's okay, right? We're here, planet Earth. We're, go have some hobbies, go have some passions, has some interests. Your purpose is really how you connect with other people, the planet, or animals. How are you sharing your heart? Do you listen? Do you communicate? Do you teach? I'm just going to go back to those verbs. Do you
Yeah.
network? How do you communicate with, and how do you relate to other people? Now, that's tricky for some of us, because some of us are introverts, or we just don't like people because it's a pretty mean place out there in the world right now, right?
Yeah.
With kids,
Yes,
Jackie, it's mean out there.
it is.
It's mean. I've got, raised teenagers. I've got lots of friends who've raised teenagers. You got 3 girls. It's mean. It's a mean place, and it seems to get meaner. The world is mean. It's divided. So sometimes when I bring this up, clients say, well, I don't like people. I just want to stay home by myself. And I don't blame you.
Right.
And many of us have been traumatized by COVID or other things happening in our life. But there's usually one person that we love, or usually someone that we can relate to. And so how do you share your heart with that person? It doesn't have to be the whole world. And start there and open your heart just a tiny bit and allow yourself to lean into the fact that your purpose is heart driven and not brain driven.
Right.
And it's
Tough
just how you're
prescription.
being.
That's a
Wow.
tough prescription, because I think that's a prescription that the world needs right now. And yeah, that's a tough one to deliver and to get people. How do you get people to buy into that? I
They
mean,
either get it or they don't, right? And we all get where we are at different times of our life. And,
Right.
you know, um, so I've had a TED Talk. We talked about this a little bit off camera, I think. I've got a TED Talk. It's been up like 10 years, I think. Didn't get any traction until recently. Then all of a sudden, for some reason, boom, it's resonating with people. You never know.
right.
We do and be who we are in the world.
Yeah.
It
So tell us
lands
what your
when
message was in your TEDx talk. Why do you think it's just now getting traction?
my TEDx talk was about, is it procrastination or percolation? That sometimes we beat ourselves up for thinking we're procrastinating, and it's just actually not time yet. And I talk about a little bit Michelangelo, who took a very, very long time to finish projects, and Leonardo da Vinci, who kept coming back to things. It's not always procrastination. Sometimes it is, but sometimes we're just in creative mode. Sometimes we're in percolation stage. Sometimes we're
Right.
thinking, right? I will think about a book. I've been thinking about this book I'm writing probably for 5 years. I've been thinking about it. I finally got down to start writing it because then I realized, okay, now I know myself well enough. Now I'm in procrastination mode. I just got to get to it. But before that, I was like, no, I don't know exactly what I want to write about. I took some notes. I thought about it. So it's discerning what is the difference. Usually the difference is fear. But if you're not really scared and other people are telling you, oh, you're just scared to go do this thing, to go travel, to move across country, to write your book, to get on stage, to learn how to communicate, to, focus on your health, whatever it is. Sometimes it's procrastination and that's fear. And sometimes it's just, it's just not time. So that's what my TEDx talk was
I
about.
I kind
love
of like
that.
that, Jackie, because I think I look around and I'm percolating on a lot of things.
That's right.
Right.
And it's okay.
And if if you go, my book, or I need to go do my TEDx, and you get a little, then it's time.
Mm.
Oh, the internal push, the internal,
No, I don't want to do it.
yeah.
Then
It's
yeah,
it's time.
then it's time. If you
That's
Yeah.
funny.
yeah, I'm going to do a TEDx someday, and right now I'm focused on something else, then that's probably true.
I
Fascinating.
love that. That just takes so much pressure off of a lot of people that just heard you say that. Because, I know a lot of young people who are not ready to just go from high school right into college. And yet they're sort of pressured into that because that's the way things are done.
Yeah.
But when they say, I'm going to do some work for a year, or I'm going to travel for a year, and then they're ready for college because they've done something that was meaningful to them, they let that percolate. And it's not just happens to young people, it happens to all of us. So I think you described it beautifully in that I don't have to feel as guilty now about not getting that book out because it's been percolating, and there will be a right time. And I do find that too, if I let things sit for a little bit and don't panic about them, then eventually it's the right moment, and then I can put all of my energy toward that, and it was a better outcome than it would have if I'd forced it,
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
I think there's another part of that too, is Michelle talked about fear, but there's also not knowing the next step, or not knowing what to do. And when we percolate, the subconscious works on that and come up with the answer.
I love that. Yeah. I love that, Todd. I got to interrupt you here.
Please do.
So one of the things that I talk about with fear, and I have a lot out there about fear, is fear for the most part is just not knowing. And when you ask enough questions, Todd, and you've just gone through a huge health scare, right? I am sure that the more questions you asked, the less the fear was, right? And that's usually what happens. If we're scared about writing a book, if we're scared about getting on stage, if we're scared about jumping out of an airplane, which I'm never going to do, by the way.
I won't either. I'm right there with you.
Is you ask all these questions and the fear goes down. And if you have fear and you're in procrastination, it's usually you got to ask some questions to help yourself feel comfortable enough to go to the next step.
Process it. And let the sub
because you
work on
can't.
it too, right? Because sometimes when I'm procrastinating, where there's some fear, and then the subconscious will just boom pop up with the answer, and it's like, oh, okay, now I can proceed because this is how this is going to work.
Right.
Well, isn't it true, Michelle, too, that if you feel that fear of not knowing what that decision, where it might take you, if you ask simply, well, how am I going to learn what I need to do, or what I need to know so that I can make this next step? I think if you just kind of put that question out there, the answers start coming, right? That's part of that percolation process, is that you don't have to run to the library and start researching something. You can say, well, how is the best way for me to find that out? Or who am I going to meet that's going to be the perfect person that's going to show me the way to do this, right? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I love that question. Yeah.
Something I was taught, Jackie, was to ask, what am I to know here? Right?
Yes.
In turmoil or in procrastination, or you're kind of deer in the headlights. What is it that I'm to know here? And that usually helps get you to that next step.
Right. Very interesting. So, what are some of the things that you work with people to discover about themselves, Michelle? Their purpose and what else?
Passion.
Passion. By the time people find me, usually there's something in their heart they want to express. And so, Jackie, you and I have this in common, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what is it? What mark do they want to make on the world? What do they want to share? What's their inspiration? What's their message? And you work with kids. I tend to work at the other end, people over 50 usually,
Yes. Yeah.
who have some wisdom, something to share. And I use the tool of writing to help people do that. You use the
Nice.
tool of speaking,
Well,
right?
she uses writing too.
I'm sure.
Yes.
Big part of writing.
Yeah.
Her kids are always writing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Well, in the
writing,
same way, Michelle, that once your clients write books, they got to speak about it, right? So
they do.
they both play in.
Yeah, they do
Yeah.
need to speak about it. So we have to get through that fear as well a little
Yeah.
bit. But writing is a tool that helps you know yourself. And it's a profound tool that meets with a lot of resistance,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
including myself. You know, I resist it too.
Yeah. Do you think that there's more resistance if they feel like they're writing a book because that's that unknown, scary part of it? Or do you think there would be less resistance if they just said, I'm just going to start writing a journal? I'm just going to start putting my thoughts down. Do you find that that's easier for people to start to integrate into a schedule or
It is
routine?
easier. And I think what is difficult is when people come to some realization that I have to be me and speak my truth.
Mm.
And so very often I get people who come to me with words written on paper, 5,000, 10,000 words, 20 pages, whatever you want to call it, right? 100 pages. They come to me and they say, I've written all this. And this, we can talk about AI a little bit too. And I'm like, well, where's your heart in this? And then I'll read a sentence out loud. I say, do you really believe this? They'll be like, no, but that's just the way it is. I'm like, well, what's under there? What do you really believe? What do you really think? They're like, oh, nobody wants to hear that. I say, well, your heart does.
Yes.
And that's where it gets scary. And that's where people get stuck. But we don't need the book that's what everybody already thinks or says. And in our heads, we think other people care and they're going to judge us. And the truth is, nobody's got time. Nobody cares. Get over yourself.
Yeah.
You know, whatever someone judges you, it's always about them.
Yeah.
When someone says, well, you shouldn't have written that, it's because they wouldn't have dared. It's people give advice who have never done it. Right. I'm
That's so
sure,
true.
Todd, you
That is
got
so
some,
true.
right? And so, and so people always give me advice about all kinds of stuff they've never done, right? Same goes to of you. And so you got to get over yourself and just write really who you are. And that takes usually a writing coach, a book coach, some help, a writing group, being really honest with yourself. And here's the trick. Nobody ever has to read that.
Right.
You get to choose whether you're going to share that with your editor. You get to choose if you're going to share that with your writing group. You can write whatever you want and burn it.
And there's something very cathartic about that.
Right, there is. And until you write it, you won't really understand the power that that has to transform yourself. You talked a little bit to, about your journey, Jackie, and your book and your trauma. Until you write it,
Oh my
you
gosh.
don't understand the transformational power of getting that out.
Absolutely. Oh, you are singing my song, because that was really probably the biggest part of my healing process in the early days when I first started to break the silence about the abuse. Is my therapist said, start writing this down. Write down
Right.
everything you're feeling. Write down everything you remember. Write down, what that's done to you. And it wasn't, we didn't have computers then, as far as, personal computers. So I wrote it longhand in,
Right.
Notebooks.
Right.
And I even tell my clients today, don't use a computer to write this down. use a pen or pencil and longhand it, because there is
The
so
connection.
much more power, between taking out those feelings in your heart and the thoughts in your head, and then coming out your arm to the end of your fingertips, and then putting it on paper where you can see it, where you can feel it and think it and see it being written at the same time. There's nothing more powerful when it comes to healing in my mind than that. And so I 100% agree
Right.
with you.
And many people come to me wanting to write a business book. And I think not every, Todd, you said offline, I think everybody's got a book inside of them. Maybe not everybody wants to write that book though, but maybe.
Yeah.
But
But
everybody
business,
wants to write. Didn't you?
right.
Didn't you say that? Everybody can write. Everybody wants to write.
Yeah, but not everybody will do it, right?
Right.
But business people these days should have a book. You kind of have to have the book
Mm-hmm.
as your expertise, as your
Calling card.
foundational piece, as right, your business
Right.
card, your platform, your branding, all of those things, right? And so business people really should have a book. And the biggest surprise comes from if you really write the book that you want to write, it's the biggest personal transformation ever, even if you're writing about business.
Right.
If you just write the top of mind stuff, oh, here's how you generate cash flow and make sure you budget and get more leads and do a newsletter or whatever,
Yes.
and that's your business model, and you write that book, that's great. And you'll get some leads and you'll generate cash flow and so forth, right? But if you write the book that's underneath that about how you get leads and why it's hard and how you connect with people and whatever's underneath that in your own heart,
Yeah.
that's the personal transformation. And that's what moves you from business owner to thought leader or entrepreneur to leader.
Yes. I think what I'm hearing you say then, Michelle, is it can't just, even if it's a business book, it can't be like a textbook or a how-to. There has to be your personal stories and experiences reflected in why you're teaching what you're doing and how it was successful for you because of your personal experience, right?
Yeah, I'd say it can be a textbook or just a plain Jane book, but you won't get the personal benefits
Right.
that come from digging deep and allowing yourself to up level and live your life in a more expanded way.
Well, wouldn't you say that the reader doesn't have as much benefit
Right.
either?
Right. The
Yeah.
reader doesn't
So,
care as much. I mean,
yeah.
you still can say, so let's be clear. Sometimes to write a business book, it, maybe nobody's going to read it. It's like I had a TED talk out there, TEDx talk out there for, 5 years. Nobody watched it, but I said, I have a TEDx talk and everybody's like, oh my gosh, that's so great. Gave me credibility,
Free
whether
Right.
they
cred.
watched it or not. So there are people out there who just want a book for the credibility to put
Right.
it up, get their thoughts on paper. It's their signature program and they use it in coordination with their coaching or a class or speaking. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And it
Yes.
will benefit them and it'll be a book and they'll make money off of it and they'll get leads from it. And we produce a lot of those books. And there's another level of someone who has a deeper message a deeper desire, calling to share something that's going to impact the world in a bigger way.
Mm.
And that's where you've got it. That's the iceberg piece. So, it's like, do I eat fast food sometimes? Yeah. Right. It's like, let's be real. I eat fast food sometimes, and I prefer to eat healthy most of the time, but it doesn't make one or the other wrong.
Yes. Interesting.
Fascinating.
And I love that
Fascinating.
you've connected now with the idea of your purpose being how do you want to share your heart with the world to here's a way to share your heart with the world.
Right. Right.
And put that message out there. Yeah, that is
Right.
so cool.
So,
Yeah.
Michelle, how does a person get? What would be your best advice? Somebody's out there right now and they're thinking, "Gosh, this sounds so cool. What's the first thing they should do?" I mean, start writing, obviously, and just write. Right? Is that the deal?
Yeah, start journaling. I'm a big Julia Cameron fan, and she wrote The Artist's Way, and she says write longhand for 20 minutes every morning. You may or may not even ever go back to read that.
And how does a person do it? What do they write about? What is it that they put down on the paper? Just whatever comes out.
So sometimes it's hard. You wake up some mornings and there's nothing to write about. So Natalie Goldberg, another one of my favorite writing teachers, she wrote Writing Down the Bones. She says you write about what's in front of you. You don't know what to write about, you start writing about your cup. My cup. I love this cup. I hate this cup. Why did I pick up this cup today? Well, it's got flowers on it. It's pretty. Actually, it's very comforting. I enjoy my cup of coffee in the morning. And you just start writing and it leads you. You have to trust your own heart that it will lead you to where it wants to go.
Nice.
You might write about this cup for 4 days in a row before you get to the deeper meaning of having 20 minutes of peace and quiet in the morning by yourself with coffee, and it's your own meditative time. Perhaps
Yeah.
might be one place that writing leads you to.
That's a
But
great way to get
also,
rid of writer's block, right? That you have
yeah,
no
it's
excuse
great.
now. There's nothing. I mean,
There's no excuse, right? And the other thing is, sometimes I just write lists. Like, oh, I got all this stuff to do. I'm in so much overwhelm, and I write it all down, and it just helps process it, get it out of my subconscious so I'm not in so much overwhelm. So there's no right or wrong thing to write about when you're writing for yourself in your journaling.
Yeah. I mean, you could even just ask yourself, if I could design the perfect day today, what would that look like? And just start writing that down, right?
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, just whatever questions. I think you could even say, okay, what question should I ask today to start writing about, and just see what comes, and then just start writing about it.
You're a
But
great
it does
question
seem
person.
daunting, but it's actually pretty easy when you start thinking about it.
You
Right?
have great questions, Jackie. You could publish a book, 100 questions from Jackie.
Questions. I don't have the answers, but I have the questions.
Don't
That's
put
good
don't put
coach
any
has
ideas in
questions.
her head. She'll go with it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Michelle, some great nuggets. This has just been a great show. Is there any we just have about I don't know, 15, maybe 10 minutes left. Is there anything else that we're missing about purpose?
Maybe you should show your book too, as you talk about that. Do you have a copy of your book at hand?
So I'm at home in my bedroom because we have
Oh,
a blizzard here.
a
So I'd
blizzard.
have to go, sorry, I should have brought it.
Okay,
I
no
have it at
worries.
my,
We
it's like
have it on
right
our
there,
show
ready.
page. It's on our
Yes.
show page at www.lifemasteryradio.com.
Yeah. And the book is a little woo. It's 28 days of spiritual exercises, and it's got, questions to ask yourself, but it's also got a little bit of astrology in there and metaphysics in there and some other things. So it speaks to all different parts of our brain and our soul. The other thing I guess I want to say about purpose, I just want to come back to this, that if you don't know what it is, that's okay. Just follow interest, be curious about the world. We spend so much time worrying about what we don't know and, who am I, and discovering ourselves, and all those things are important. And we have a lifetime to explore ourselves. So in the meantime, the more you can be curious about the world, the more you can be interested in other people, the more you can learn to ask great questions.
Yeah.
All the answers will come to you. Todd, you talked about, your coach and your mentors asking you questions about looking inside as well, right? It's all there. It just sometimes takes a lifetime to reveal itself. So in the meantime, have some fun. Don't fret about, are you on purpose? Are you not on purpose? You're on purpose. You probably just don't know why you're on purpose.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Michelle,
you
if
know,
someone's sitting here thinking, oh, okay, 2024 is going to be the year I finally write this book,
Yeah.
and they contact you, what does the process look like? I know it's not probably cookie cutter and you don't have the same thing for everybody, but a general idea of what a year with you or a couple of months with you,
Yeah.
whatever what does that look like for somebody who's really now destined and determined to do this?
Yeah. So it is sort of cookie cutter in that you come into the program, but then there's individual coaching and editing with each person. So that's very customized. If you just have an idea, you come into my Writing Path program. You write with a small group of people at least twice a week. We have resources to help you get unstuck. We have writers block exercises, creativity exercises, writing prompts. You get coaching with me. Somebody will look over your book at some point and you're writing when you're ready, not too early, right? So,
Wow.
and that's just a small monthly fee. And the purpose of that is to get you to your first draft manuscript, right? The bad one. I was going to say the word.
Right. It's only a draft, people.
Only a draft, right? And then when you have that, then you come into our publishing program and work personally with an editor very intensely. And we do layout and design and editing and beta
wow.
readers and advanced reviews and send it off to reviewers ahead of time and the whole thing that goes in the publishing world. And then the third step is, now what? Do I want to be a thought leader? Do I want to step out in my industry and do more things like speaking and so forth? And how do I use my book as a tool to help me to my next step to spread my message?
Wow. So you've set up a step-by-step program, and
Yeah, it's
that,
three.
I believe that's at theauthorpath.com. People
It
can
is.
go there
Thank you.
and get started. And so let me make sure I got this right. You just start off by in a group of people writing things down, and as you get more and more accomplished and you get more and more material, then you move on to the next step.
That's right. And it's all private. So it's in a small group, but you only share what you want to share or
So
not.
group like a mastermind group too, or is it?
Yeah, the mastermind is the third stage where you take your book that you've published and now what? And I call that destined for more, because you feel like you're destined to go do something with
What's
this.
the next step?
What's the next?
I can just feel the excitement because I remember what it was like when I had my book in my hand. It was like,
Yeah.
it's so cool.
And a lot of people don't realize that you got to market your book, right?
Yeah, even if you have a publisher.
Even if you have a publisher, you've got to hit the ground running and get that book out there. That's part of what you got to do as an author. And most people that I know go, oh, well, I don't want to have to do that.
and so the key is finding a way to market that is in alignment with how they like to share their heart.
Right.
So let's pull this back around to purpose, right? And I have a whole program on marketing archetypes. If you feel like you're a teacher, then all you got to go is go teach, and that will market your book. If you feel like you're a caregiver, then how can you use your book and the content inside your book to help pour love into other people somehow? Right? So it comes back to, what's your purpose? How do you share your heart with the world? How can you bring that into marketing and promoting yourself in a way that's so authentic to you that it doesn't feel like marketing, just feels like sharing your message and your heart with the world and living your purpose.
Wow.
Yes. That's beautiful.
Yeah, you've got it figured out, Michelle. How long did it take you to figure all this out?
About 60 years.
That's why they need someone like you, because most people don't feel like, I don't want it to take 60 years to get
Right.
here.
But this is my life's work.
So
And
give us an
Yes.
example maybe of some of your successes. I mean, you make it sound so simple, right? And easy to do. You've taken it step by step.
yeah,
Maybe give us some examples of what you heard, what you saw, and what
right.
ended up.
Yeah. And it is simple and it's not easy. As most things in life, it's a simple path. You want to run a marathon? It's simple. You get out and you run
You
every
start
day to
running.
practice. Does not make it easy, but
Right.
it's simple, right? So I like that, Todd. Um, so we've got lots of success stories. We have people who we've got several authors who've had movies made about them or their book. We do mostly nonfiction, mostly.
Mhm.
Not all, but mostly nonfiction. A couple of documentaries. We've had authors be interviewed on CNN and USA Today, and I don't even think USA Today is around anymore, but big publications. We've had people turn their books into whole programs. We've had lots of TEDx speakers because you get the confidence.
Yeah.
See, here's the thing. Once you write and there's that all internal up level, you get the confidence to go do what you're here to do in the world, and you just take the next steps.
Right.
Right. TEDx speaker, or speaking to big stages, or blogging, or writing, or your next book, or being interviewed, or whatever your next step is, right? It's just a natural.
The
So
next chapter of the
next
process,
chapter.
right? It's all metaphorical that you wrote that book with all these chapters, and now there's lots of chapters of steps you got to take as you fulfill your purpose more
Right.
and more.
And I just also want to mention, Todd, that sometimes the successes come from stories from readers about how much the book has helped them, because we have a lot of nonfiction books that are memoirs or healing or trauma or health related or business related. We get lots of feedback. Your book helped me do X. Your book helped me forgive. Your book helped me move forward. Your book helped me build my business. Your book helped me lose 30 pounds, right? We get lots of those kinds of testimonials too. And so in terms of humanity and what you're here to do in the world, that's really the point.
Well, and I heard you say a couple times the person that benefits the most is the person that's writing, and creating the book. It's just like life coaching. I think if a person goes into training to be a life coach, the person that benefits from that the most is the person that takes the training.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. So what can a person expect? I know there's different levels. So here I am. I got this great. I want to just get in a group and start writing stuff. How long is this process going to take me?
So when you come into our writing group, we expect something completed within a year. Many people get it done in 3 months, but it depends on the person. It depends how much they thought about it, how much.
So you have goals and specific.
We do.
What do I want to signposts that
signposts, goalposts,
word
milestones,
milestones. That's what I was looking for.
And when you're writing difficult subjects, for some people, if there's difficult subjects, we do say take a break, go find a therapist if you need to, take care of yourself if the subject's difficult, right? So we hope for a year everybody should be completed with the first draft within a year. Like I said, some people do it in 3 months and then they just move to the next step.
Very cool.
Nice.
Michelle, I am so impressed, and I'm Jackie, I'm ready to write that next book.
Yes, good.
Gotta do it, Todd. 2024 is the year.
It is. It's the year.
Anything else?
And it's so helpful. It's so helpful when you're working with someone who knows how the publishing process works, because that's often the most intimidating part, right?
Yeah, because you don't know what you don't know, and there's so many pieces. Yeah,
that's right.
Like gutters and margins and how page heading works and what fonts work on Kindle and all that stuff. Right?
Well, and then how to get it on Amazon and how to make that successful for you, and what's a book launch look like and all those things. How do you get to number one? Anyway, so
all that stuff we do all that
stuff. Yeah,
that is just amazing, Michelle. I'm like thoroughly impressed, and And for those that are listening today, please tell somebody about this show, because there were so many gold nuggets. I'm going to have to go back and listen to this about 3 or 4 times just to pick up on all those, because this show is action packed. What do you think, Jack?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I hope we've inspired people today to get that book done. It's, as Michelle says, it's a simple process, and yet it's not an easy process, but it's a worthwhile process. Right. And you just have to start it. It's like anything else, any other journey, you just have to start and then be open to the way that you're going to make that travel happen for you. So,
any last minute thought, Michelle? Anything you want to just throw out there? We got about a minute or so left.
If it's in your heart, it's yours to do.
Mm.
If it's not in your heart, don't worry about it. Don't let anyone else tell you, oh, you should do a marathon, you should write a book, you should get on stage. But if it's in your heart and you're not doing it, get some help, ask yourself some questions, find out what the fear is about. It's yours to do.
Nice.
And go to the author path.
theauthorpath.com. Thank you.
You can get started there today.
Lots of free resources too there. So come on.
Nice.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you so much for showing up as you today and bringing such a great message. And goodness gracious, don't stop, woman. I don't want, you're just on fire, and I'm right behind you, and I don't want to step on you. Okay.
Thank you both.
Yeah, thank you. That's about all the time we have for today. I hope you enjoyed the show. My biggest hope is that you would tell a friend about the show and go to our YouTube channel. Check out the rest of our shows. Jackie and I, will we be back next week, Jack?
No, we'll be back first part of January. January 4th, I think.
January. So this is the last show of 2023, and we're going to come out of the gate with some really cool guests for you next year. So Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we will see you next year. Lastly, please, please, please make it a great day, because it's all about choice, and you choose to start writing now. Bye-bye for now.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in to Life Mastery Radio. Join Todd Allen and Jackie Bailey and their guests of leading authors, speakers, coaches, and entrepreneurs weekly at 10 a.m. Pacific. Learn to live a peaceful life with intentional mastery through stories and messages to support your well-being and most evocative dreams. Visit their website, www.lifemasteryradio.com. Join their mailing list and be notified about upcoming guests. That's lifemasteryradio.com.